How's it going? Welcome back to the Wealthy Warriors. Today is Wednesday, and this past week I've been thinking about, lots of things for this podcast. And one thing, if you followed me or if you have followed me on social media, I started to actually hashtag the Wealthy Warrior because, I believe that, as I said before, we're all warriors. We all have that warrior within us, and it takes consistently working at it every day to show up to be that warrior. And I wanted to start phrasing this, Warrior Wednesdays, bring out your inner warrior. There's Thankful Thursdays, there's, Sunday Fun Day. Sorry about that. And Warrior Wednesdays. That's what I want to start hashtagging when I upload my videos, is Warrior Wednesdays. Let's bring out that inner warrior within you. And today, of that medicine wheel spectrum that you see on my album cover, I want to talk about physical health and how physical health can really, really make a huge impact on your life and how you show up, not only for yourself, but everyone around you, your loved ones, your friends, your co-workers. And, how I've recently started to look at my body as a vehicle, right? Food is fuel. Traditionally, Indigenous people, Native Americans, First Nations people, we looked at food as our fuel to fuel us to withstand life, to be able to go out and hunt and gather more and to live a life. And I don't know exactly when this has started, but, probably within the last 50 years, food has become more accessible. We don't have to go out and hunt and gather our food. We can walk down to the store, drive down to the store, take an Uber, take a Lyft, to the store and get food. And a lot of people don't look at what they're eating. They don't look at the labels. They don't read things. Going into reading labels is a bad thing in itself, but being a little bit more aware on what you're putting in your body and how it's going to affect you in the long term is pretty powerful. And I've tried different styles of eating. I've tried vegan, I've tried vegetarian, I haven't tried paleo, but I've tried high carbs, low carbs, and everyone is different. And I really heard this interview I was listening to on another podcast, and the doctor was talking about how everyone is different and we should be eating to our blood type. And what I've noticed for myself, ketogenic lifestyle has been more of a sustainable way for me to eat. Being Indigenous, it was a way we ate for many years, and because in wintertime, depending on where you lived, most fruit would be scarce, right? So you wouldn't be eating a lot of fruit. You wouldn't be eating a lot of vegetables. You would be surviving mostly on meat and fat that you cook from the animals. And it really started to make sense how if I started to eat the way my ancestors did when they were thriving, when they were flourishing, how that would make me feel and how it would show up to my life, And I've noticed when I eat healthier, I eat products that aren't as processed as much and don't have a lot of processed sugars in them, that I feel amazing, And some of you see me get up at 3 a.m. I'm actually in the gym usually about 2:30 a.m. some days. And I get up at 2:30 a.m. and I'm in there working out with no coffee, with no energy boost, as some say. Depending on what I'm doing in the gym. You know, some days on my heavier days, like my leg days, I usually do leg days and deadlifts. I'll usually have a scoop of pre-workout. But most mornings I don't. I just go off my own energy. And I start to pay attention on how my body feels and what it does to my body. And I know now what certain things work and certain things don't work with me. And, you know, a lot of Indigenous people are lactose intolerant, which is pretty crazy, you know. I know when I eat some kind of dairy, some form of dairy, within the next day or two, I'm going to break out in acne and I'm going to break out in pimples. I just know it. Like, it's just an automatic thing now because I've started to pay attention on the fuel that I'm putting into my body. You know, just imagine your body like a vehicle. Say you had a very, very expensive racing vehicle. And if you know anything about vehicles, you know, the type of gas you put in it will either break it down or thrive it. You know, you can either put in 87, you can put all the way up to 94 octane. And there's actually special cars that take just jet fuel or certain types of gases in it to make it perform the best. And it's pretty crazy, you know, if you pull up to a gas station and you have a gas vehicle and you go put in diesel, it'll take a little bit after you start driving to ruin that engine. It won't happen right away. It'll eventually happen within usually like the first 10 minutes of driving because that gas will start to mix with the diesel and it's not good for that engine. And vice versa. You roll up and you put gas in a diesel vehicle, it'll break it down. Well, just think about your food that you're putting into your body as a different type of gas. Is it either gonna fuel it or break it down? Because, you know, I'm a cancer survivor. I had a tumor growing on the top of my right foot, and that just didn't happen overnight. At a point in my life before all that happened, as some of you know, I was addicted to alcohol. So I would party all Friday night, get lack of sleep, wake up, still feel drunk, drink some more alcohol without even hydrating myself with water. And then at most times I would order pizza, or I would order fast food, or I would order something that was quick and easy that made me, you know, in the moment feel great. Because, you know, everyone loves pizza, but, you know, in the long run, you can't just eat pizza every day and drink beer every day, because you'll end up with sicknesses. You'll end up with a disease like I did. I ended up with cancer in my foot, and it was my daily choice, or well, my weekend choice of what I was eating. And I wasn't eating the healthiest at the time either. You know, I was eating a lot of processed foods, pizza pockets, noodles, things that had zero nutritional value. I was eating, and it added up. It stacked up, and I was diagnosed with cancer in my foot. I had a tumor, and that was one of the scariest moments of my life. But it was also one of the most biggest blessings in disguise. You know, I believe, you know, we're always given signs, you know, signs from the universe, God, creator, you know, whoever you believe in. We're always given signs, little subtle signs. And when we don't listen to them, they get worse and they get worse until eventually, you know, you lose a limb or something happens really drastic and you're like, whoa, you know what? Maybe I should listen because this is a sign that I need to change my life. And I remember as I was leaving the hospital after I was told that the tumor they had taken out of my foot was cancer. And yes, I was scared, but I used that as a sign to change my life. I knew right then and there I needed to change my life all around in everything I did. And from that moment is the man you see today, the man you're listening to today. And just by that one simple thing, changed my life drastically. So now I hydrate a lot. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I don't eat a lot of foods that have refined sugars in them. I try to read labels. I try to, buy grass-fed, grass-finished meat and products. I'm not against eating animals because, being indigenous, that's how we've lived for centuries. And there's creation stories on why the animals are here and what they gave for us to be here as well. We used to have a communication with these animals. We used to have a really good balance with them and understanding and respectness for animals. So I do eat animals. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, that's okay. I don't believe in, factory farmed foods, because that's not a sustainable way of living. Those animals are living in cruelty. Those animals don't, they're not fed the nourishment that they need to thrive as well. They also have a purpose in life, to live. They want to live. And if you want to turn off now because, I don't, I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, I want to ask you this question. Things that give us life have life, right? And there was a study they did with a caterpillar. And the caterpillar, what they would do is they would play a sound next to a plant that the caterpillar was eating a plant. And then they started to do studies on that plant. And the plant that heard that noise of the caterpillar eating another plant, it started to turn itself toxic. Why? Because it wanted to live. It didn't want to die. And that is proof in itself that if things give you life, they ultimately have life in them. And if you think vegan and veganism and vegetarianism is the only way to live a sustainable life, well, that's for you. As I mentioned before, we should be eating to our blood type. We should be eating to how our ancestors used to eat, because that's how our ancestors ate for centuries. And it takes time for our bodies to adapt to a new lifestyle of eating. And, beer and pizza are definitely not in my ancestors' ways of eating, So start to look back on where your ancestors came from. And there's this book called Eat for Your Blood Type. I don't remember the doctor's name, but it's a pretty interesting book, and I highly recommend, if you don't feel great with your life and where you're at, and you feel like you don't have enough energy half the time, I really recommend that you open this book or check out an audiobook, maybe on YouTube. That's what's useful about YouTube. There's a lot of audiobooks. There's a lot of information out there for free. And start to read and figure what your blood type is, and start to pay attention on when you eat a certain food or a certain thing, on how it makes you feel, because it ultimately is fueling you. And sicknesses and diseases don't happen overnight. They say that there's only 1 or 2 types of cancers that are actually genetic. The rest is what we do, how we eat every day. And it all stacks up. It all adds up. Everything adds up. Everything adds up. Every action has a reaction to it. So just understand, if you want to feel your best, you have to fuel yourself with the best nutrients. You have to start eating for nourishment. And I'm not saying you have to do this every day, all day, go out and splurge once in a while and have a treat, have your favorite meal. Maybe there's even a healthy alternative to eating healthier. even living a ketogenic lifestyle, I found a few interesting places around Vancouver, British Columbia. That's where I live. I live on the unceded coast Salish territories of British Columbia. And there's this restaurant called the Caveman Cafe. And if you live in the area and if you've never checked out the Caveman Cafe, I highly recommend them. They cater to vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto. They got it all. And they got desserts that are ketogenic. They got desserts that are vegetarian or vegan. And they label it and they show you what's all in it. They are delicious. That's one of my go-to things when I want to have a treat. When I want to treat myself to something yummy, I will go out and do that. I'm not saying eating healthy has to be mundane and boring. So just understand that baby steps. If you are eating bad right now, if you're eating poorly, I suggest you just drink water. I suggest you start drinking 4 liters or a gallon of water a day. Set your watch or your phone. Here's another challenge. And put a timer on it for every hour. Every hour, take a drink of water. And you'll start to notice when you drink more water, you won't crave you won't crave as much sugary drinks as you have been before, because your body will be getting nourished with something that we all need, water. Water is life. You've heard it in the indigenous communities. Water is life. We are over 80% made out of water. And there's interesting stories about water and indigenous ways. And I want to share one thing before I get off here. I want to talk about, hair. Our hair has a very sacred meaning to life. And I was taught this, I was told this story about when I've been growing my hair out. I was told to only cut my hair on the day of a full moon. And I started getting to think about that. And I was like, well, why? Why would I only cut my hair, trim it on the day of a full moon? And then it clicked and it dawned in on me. And I knew that the moon is its strongest when it's, it pulls the strongest when it's a full moon, when it's over Earth, when it's a certain spot. And our hair has water within it, right? You think that, whoa, our hair has water within it. Well, it does. So that made sense to me, There's water in our hair. And when we trim it, that pull from the moon starts to pull that hair, right? Tries to pull it out more. It also allows for your dead ends to be trimmed, to breathe. Because everything, has to breathe. And if you're not fueling your body with water, you most likely don't have the greatest hair, A lot of people, I guess, are envious of my hair because it's so thick and nourished, and it's shiny and it's soft. And there's this lady who I get my hair cut by, and she just really loves it. She's just like, she just falls in love with my hair. And that's because I drink a lot of water. I respect my hair enough to feed it the nourishment it needs to thrive. So, baby steps. Don't go all out. Don't go swinging for, a home run right away. Just take it one swing at a time. Start adding water into your life every day. 4 liters, a gallon. Set a timer for every hour. Drink a glass of water. When I first started drinking water, my personal trainer had me buy one of those big water gallons, and I would just draw lines on it. And then on the notches, I would put like 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2, 4, 6. And then I would have to be done that every day by that line. That gave me a visual goal on how to start drinking more water. That's another tip you can do on how to drink more water. So just understand that your body is a vehicle, and what you put in it today may not affect you tomorrow or the next day, but it eventually will all add up. And you'll either get stronger or die. Your body will die and get sickness and disease. So with that, I'm going to say on Winnegit, Dagas, and Sukani. Sukani means thank you in my Tunacha language. Sukani for tuning in with me and listening with me, and listening what I have to say. And remember, everything happens for the right reasons.